Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports autograph tips and discussions. Today I'm going to talk to you about a subject that has kind of been bothering me for a while, and I was kind of trying to figure out which way I wanted to present this to you, the YouTube public. At first, I thought about making this like one of my scam videos. If you guys remember, I used to go out in public and basically find these scams. I haven't done one of these videos in quite a while because with the virus, I just don't have the capabilities of doing that. So the other thought that I went through was doing an autograph tips and discussions video instead. And I think that is more appropriate for this subject matter because with this uncertainty of what's going on with major sports right now, a lot of people are catching the sports fever, I would like to call it, especially with the baseball season right now on hold, and people are just wanting to buy, I guess you would say, because they aren't spending their money going to live games, they're not getting autographs and such. So what I'm going to talk to you about, as you could tell from the title intro, is I'm going to talk to you about spotting fake autographs that are for sale. And this is not just particularly on eBay. This could be some, Facebook or any of those places. And some people are trying to make a quick buck, so to speak. And I just want to prepare you with some tips that I have learned over the years when purchasing autographs, and also the knowledge of autographs that I have for the last 25 years to 30 years of my life. So here we go. We're just going to jump right into this, and I'm going to show you some examples on eBay, and I'm going to point out some items that I think are very noteworthy to look for when you are looking to buy legitimate autographs. And to talk really briefly before we jump into this, and I'm talking about raw autographs, meaning they're on an item such as a baseball card, and I'll show a picture of what I mean, and they're not certified out of a pack. They haven't been authenticated by a authenticator, like PSA or Beckett or any of those other types. This is just simply you pulling a card out of a pack of cards or an item and just getting it signed. So that's what I am referring to as spotting raw fake autographs. So let's jump right into this. Alright, so for this first item I'm going to show you, this is a perfect example of how to spot some really non-legit signed cards, I guess you would say. And this is something that was brought to my attention by a forum that I am a frequent subscriber to. And this forum talks strictly about autographs, and somebody posted this eBay auction. Alright, so when you first look at this at face value, you kind of say, okay, this is somebody trying to sell an entire lot of 1989 Topps. Maybe if you're a set collector or something along those lines, you might be like, oh, this is the perfect lot to buy. Well, on closer examination of this lot, there are some details that I want to point out that are just not really sitting right. Okay, number one, all of the ink appears to be the same. Now, if you were getting all of these autographs, unless all of these guys were in the same place at the same time, the odds of the ink matching up perfectly on every single card is probably most unlikely, especially with getting autographs from this era. One guy might sign a card and it looks perfect, then you might wait a week or two later and you happen to use that same Sharpie and it streaks, or something along those lines. So another thing to point out for this auction in particular, you look at when you have all of these cards side by side like this, you kind of look at the consistencies in the autographs. Well, if you look closely, Dave Dravecky here with the the D on Dravecky. Well, mysteriously, Dave Stewart happens to have that same D on his autograph. Now, what are the odds that Dave Dravecky and Dave Stewart just happen to sign their D's identically the same? Not to mention, one is a lefty and the other one's a righty. So that right there is a pretty big clue that when looking at this, that these two are not authentic autographs. So another tip that I'm going to give you is when you're looking at a lot like this, the nice thing about the internet is there's usually an example out there. Meaning, I'm going to show you a side-by-side picture of this card right here next to an authentic Greg Swindell autograph. Now, the nice thing about this set, the authentic autograph that I'm showing you, is back in 1996, Leaf Donruss decided to produce this Chase insert set called Leaf Signature or Donruss Signature, and these were kind of the first in-pack autographs of Major League Baseball players. So this is always a great reference point because these sets, the Donruss set and the Leaf set, they have common players in them, meaning it's just not Derek Jeter, Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr., etc., etc., the stars from that era. It's the more commonplace semi-star common players like Greg Swindell that there are actual authenticated autographs out there to compare. If you're looking at an autograph, especially a well-known player like a Jeter or Mike Trout or somebody like that, there's going to be certified pack issued cards from major companies like Upper Deck, Topps, Fleer, Donruss, Leaf, Panini, on down the list that are out there that you can put side-by-side comparisons. So I highly recommend doing that. So another couple things to point out about this auction in particular. Take a look at Mr. Charles Hudson here. Somebody actually signed the card Chuck Wagon. Now, I don't know Charles Hudson, but I'm guessing that he would probably not do that to his card when he signed it. That's just a hunch. I could be wrong. But most players don't do that to their card when they sign it. Now, I'm not saying that Mr. Hudson may enjoy doing that to his cards, but that definitely is a red flag. Another thing about this auction is, okay, let's look at these two. If you look at the autograph on the right, Terry Clark, the card is actually signed Clark Terry. I'm pretty sure if somebody was signing their name to a card, they would most likely know how to spell their name, and also would most likely know how to write their name. And with that said, if you look at Mr. Ernie Witt right next to Terry Clark, you can see that Ernie Witt is actually incorrectly spelled on the card. I'm pretty sure that when you're signing your name, you probably know how to spell your name. You can see that the H in Witt is missing in the autograph. To wrap this part of the video up, one of the things I want to point out, my guess is with these cards, somebody just decided to have a little fun. They got a Sharpie, they got a pack or two of 89 Topps, and they just decided to sign the names of the people on the cards. And maybe they did a little research, looking online to see how the players signed, but as you can see, some of these signatures are just so horrible. Like the Terry Clark that I pointed out and the Chuck Wagon Charles Hudson. You would be like, oh, wait a second. So, I don't know what the intention of this seller was. Maybe they actually thought these were legitimate autographs. Well, the ironic thing that I kind of alluded to earlier in the video was some of the people on the forum actually contacted the seller. Well, if you go down in the seller's auction, It says autos collected in ballparks and estate fines. Okay. So here's the problem. Before interleague play, it was probably unlikely that you would be able to get most of these signatures because they're both National League and American League. Okay? So, unless you really were a devoted fan and you attended ballparks in both American League and National League cities, it would be pretty hard to get this lot signed. Okay. The second thing to point out was one of the forum members actually contacted this seller and said, hey, these are fake, you need to take this auction down, none of these are legitimate. And the person's response was, well, these are 100% legitimate because my son got these signed at the ballpark. Well, which is it? Did we find this at an estate sale, or did your son get these signed at the ballpark? Well, as I mentioned, this auction has been taken down. So the good news is nobody will hopefully purchase this lot again. However, would you be able to spot that these are fake if they were individually sold one at a time? And that's going to lead us to our next seller. Alright, so this next auction, this one's going to be a little bit tougher. This is somebody that I believe has legitimate stuff for sale, but mixed in with their legitimate autographs. For example, here is a Lamar Hunt autograph certified autograph. So I have no doubt that this Lamar Hunt certified autograph is probably legitimate. But as you can see, they have hundreds, if not thousands, of items that are autographed and listed on this page. So how do you decipher what's real and what's not? Well, that's a tough question. So I'm going to pull up a few examples from this seller, and we're going to point out some obvious flaws, and I'll let you make the decision in the comments. Alright, so one of the first things that I notice is this is a Cal Ripken Jr. autograph. Okay, well, this card was produced modern. This is a 2012 reprint type card of Cal Ripken Jr. Well, I'm not an expert on Cal Ripken autographs, but I know for almost a fact that he has not signed this way in this type of manner for many, many years. Okay, his autograph has changed quite significantly from what it looked like at the facsimile signature there to what it is today. So that's just one little thing that I want to point out. The next thing I want to point out is, well, this one comes with a letter of authenticity, okay? Well, let's take a look at this letter of authenticity. Alright, number one, this is a lot of 181 signed cards. And they're trying to say that here are the ones that are pictured, and you can see the Ripken one is pictured in this lot. But they're saying that if you bought, just because you buy this one card, well, we have 180 other cards that are real, so we're going to authenticate all 181 cards with this one piece of letter of authenticity. Okay? And I'm not going to talk anything negatively about the owner of this company, but this company and this individual has been under scrutiny quite a bit lately, and just in the last year in 2019, so just Google that name and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's a big indicator right there when you have this level of an autograph and you're not seeing a true letter of authenticity, okay? And we're also asking $100 for this, alright? Now, this is another biggie. If you go down here in the description, and hopefully this shows up really well, but if you see this is a key indicator that things are not good. No returns accepted, all sales are final. Okay? Well, when you see that in an auction, especially with a raw autographed item, that means that the person, if you call them out and say, hey, I think this is fake, or let's say that you send this into PSA to get graded, and you have PSA send it back to you and say, you know, this has been deemed fake autograph, it's not authentic. Well, you're going to go back to the seller and say, hey, you know, this is fake, I want my money back. Well, right here, they're going to say, well, hey, all sales are final, too bad. Well, just my opinion, any seller that has credibility of wanting to sell their autographs, number one, will guarantee authenticity or your money back. Meaning, if I was selling a high-end Cal Ripken Jr. autograph like this, just personally myself, for $100, I mean, $100 is a lot of money to invest in a raw signed card. I would say conditionally, this is going to pass PSA or Beckett or whatever source you use, authenticity, and if it doesn't, I'll give you your money back. That would be a key that I'd be looking for if you were looking to buy autographs. So we're going to move on to a couple more examples here. So here's a Nolan Ryan autograph. And you can see this Nolan Ryan has some very, very big problems. If you've ever collected a Nolan Ryan autograph, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Just by looking at this, you can tell that's not a real good Nolan Ryan. So we'll go to this letter of authenticity again. Okay, well, you'll see this letter of authenticity, same deal. This time it's 396 cards, including these names, blah, blah, blah. Well, there's a problem here. Do you see Nolan Ryan's name anywhere listed there? Do you see the card pictured at all? I mean, would you buy a card with a letter of authenticity that, one, doesn't even show the card that you're buying, two, doesn't even list the name of the autograph that you're buying, and again, from this company, all right? So that's a big, big, big clue, big red flag right there, that this is not legit in the fact that that card is even on that letter of authenticity. And here we go again, $79.99. So I would stay very far away from an autograph like this. And here's another Nolan Ryan example. Now, as you can see, just the consistency between the two autographs aren't even the same. And I'm not saying that Nolan Ryan signs his name the same every single time, you know. Nobody does that. But you can see that there's inconsistencies between the two autographs themselves in their auctions. So finally, here's one more auction from this seller, and this one is almost too good to be true. I mean, if you look at this at first glance, as somebody that doesn't know, you know, about autographs, and that's what this video is really about, you look at this and say, wow, look at this lineup. We got Catfish Hunter, we got Nolan Ryan, you got Yaz, we got Sandberg, Schmidt, Satchel Paige, on down the list, Frank Robinson. And again, we go to the certificate, and guess what? Not everybody's name is listed, and it looks like, though, in this case, they all are pictured. You can see that first sheet right there. You know, the 9 cards, they are listed. But again, set of 100 cards. And another thing to look at is, let's look at the names that are listed. Well, if we're talking these are the top tier people, okay, number one, there's some misspellings, okay? That is not Joe Dumars. That is Joe Dumas. Okay? If this was a letter of authenticity, would you not want Joe Dumars' autograph? Not Joe Dumas's? Just throwing that out there. And, you know, just there's too many inconsistencies with this. Okay? So what I'm trying to elaborate in this section is, you know, check your authenticity. It can come with a piece of paper, but that means nothing, obviously. If it is authenticated through a third party like PSA or Beckett, then you shouldn't have a problem. But a raw card with this type of certificate is a very high risk purchase. Alright, so this next one is a little bit different. This isn't a huge seller. They only have about 44 auctions, but this is something that I've never seen before, and I just this one just boggled me when I unearthed this. And this is something I want to credit the forum again. I did not find this seller. This was somebody else saying, "Hey, take a look at these." You know, since we've been having this discussion, and you can see that they have pretty big names here. We got Mike Trout, we've got some football, we even got Tiger Woods on there, we got Muhammad Ali on down the list. Well, I'm going to stop on Tiger Woods here for a second, and if anybody has ever autographed golf, I never personally have, but I have heard through the rumors that Tiger doesn't even sign cards because he has an exclusive contract with Upper Deck, and he does not sign cards unless it's for the, you know, for the company. Even if you walked up to Tiger and asked him to sign, he wouldn't oblige in this fashion. So that's a big indicator right there. Okay, so this is something that I just want to talk about, and first, you have to know your history, okay, of the player. And anybody that is a New York Yankees fan obviously knows who this man is. Well, tragically, we lost Mr. Munson in 1979. Well, this card in particular that we're looking at is signed in Sharpie, and we're going to talk about that here in a second, Sharpie. But it's also a 1978 Topps, okay? That means that this card had to have been signed within a 1-year time frame. And in addition to that, it was signed in Sharpie. Well, if you're an autograph collector, many know that back in the 1970s, the 1960s, etc., Sharpies were not as accessible as they are nowadays. Sharpies were more used in an office setting, not at the ballpark. They were not really brought to the light of autograph collecting until probably the mid-1980s or even the 80s, when they started having card shows and signings and stuff like that. So when you see a Thurman Munson signed card in Sharpie, you're like, that's almost impossible. Unless Thurman Munson happened to have a Sharpie with him, you know, when he was signing. So not the average fan carried a Sharpie at this point in their life. Now, I'm not saying that there's not autographs out there that are authentic that were signed in the 70s and 60s in Sharpie, but to have a deceased player's autograph in Sharpie, that's really skeptical. And we'll talk about another example here in a second. Now, with this seller, we're going to look at some prices here, okay? $478 to buy this one card. Well, actually, you get the 2 cards. And this is the real scary part. So, after showing you the price, I'm going to scroll down here to the description, okay? And I'm going to read to you what this says. Alright, so hopefully we can read this together. 2001 Topps reprint New York Yankees All-Star Baseball World Champion catcher Thurman Munson card. If you buy this card, you will receive a free autographed 1978 Topps Thurman Munson card. The autograph was received through the mail. Okay. Now, my viewers, I know you guys are a lot smarter than this. But this is what that seller is doing. So this is what they're saying. This reproduction card right here is $478. And you get the autograph for free. What? This card is probably worth $1, and that's on a good day, alright? $1. You could probably get this Thurman Munson card for. So they're clearly trying to go around eBay's rules about, you know, selling autographs or what have you, because they're saying this item is free. You're buying this for $400. Well, all I gotta say is, would you buy this $1 card for 400 and something dollars? And to continue talking about Mr. Munson, not only do they have one Thurman Munson autograph, they have two that they obtained through the mail. And if you notice the difference here, there is a difference in marker. So the odds of you getting Thurman Munson to sign for you twice through the mail with two different pens, okay, are very slim. You can also see at the autograph here, you can see the hesitation in the autograph. Do you see that right here in the autograph? You can see the hesitation. Now, anybody that signs their name doesn't have that type of hesitation with signing their name. So you can clearly see that this is something that is not probably authentic. So I'm going to show you a couple more examples of this person's auctions. Okay, this one is an affordable $34.99, which, you know, for living Hall of Famer Sandy Koufax. I mean, Sandy Koufax is not an easy autograph to get, and if this card were authentic, graded through PSA or graded through Beckett, you're talking hundreds of dollars. But you're not buying the autograph. So you're buying this reproduction Kmart card, okay? And that reproduction Kmart card is very common. I have probably 20 of these in my collection. No joke. So, again, going down to the description, this autograph was received through the mail. Now, if anybody knows, Mr. Koufax doesn't really sign his mail. Alright? So we're just going to move down the list here. Okay, this one is even more atrocious. Okay? This set was released in the early 1980s. Cassius Clay, also known as Muhammad Ali, very rarely signed his name Cassius Clay after he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. Well, Muhammad Ali, or Cassius Clay, changed his name to Muhammad Ali in 1964. So, you happen to tell me that, again, you're buying the 1991 Diamond card. You're not buying the autograph, that's free. But you mean to tell me that sometime in the 1980s or even the 1990s, you wrote Muhammad Ali, and he signed your autograph, Cassius Clay, and not Muhammad Ali, through the mail? Come on. So, I mean, these are just example after example of this seller. Now, look at this. A Roberto Clemente autograph. Yes, Roberto Clemente. On an autograph that barely could have been done because this card came out basically around the time of his death. I mean, there would have been such a small window of opportunity to get this card signed. I'm not saying that there's not some authentic versions of this card signed, because that is possible. But the window of opportunity to get this card signed was very, very short. Now, this one is probably one of my favorites. And this is late Hall of Famer St. Louis Cardinal Dizzy Dean and his brother Daffy. Well, as you can see, this Dizzy Dean autograph, which looks really, really bad. I mean, that doesn't even look, I mean, the autograph itself just looks so inconsistent. But the key to this is Dizzy passed away in 1974. Do you think Dizzy had a Sharpie on him in 1974 that, again, he signed through the mail? Now, the odds of Dizzy Dean signing this card before 1974 in blue Sharpie, and you can see that's very, very bold blue Sharpie. That's not like an old Sharpie from 40 plus years ago, almost 50 years ago. That's like a blue Sharpie. Okay, a bold blue Sharpie. And the odds of him having a blue Sharpie are even slimmer than him having a black Sharpie. I mean, a black Sharpie would be more believable than a blue Sharpie in this case. Dizzy Dean passed away in 1974. There's not a lot of Dizzy Dean autographs out there in Sharpie, especially blue Sharpie. So, in closing, I wanted to share this stuff with you guys. So, when you're going on eBay, you're going on Facebook, you're going places and you're wanting to buy autographs. You know, you just have some money that you want to spend and you want to get your first Joe DiMaggio autograph, or you just are trying to complete a set. You're trying to complete the whole 1991 Topps set signed or something like that. I don't want you to purchase something like this and find out that every single thing that you just bought is not real. That's why I'm sharing this information with you. I, again, am not condoning the sellers in any way that I'm showing in these auctions. It is their business what they do with their items. However, I think that eBay should look really hard, a lot more, at what they allow to be sold on their platform, because in some of these cases, this is just downright fraud. You know, this is just fraudulent stuff that's going on, and hopefully one day somebody will, you know, do something about this on eBay. But even if eBay does shut it down, the sellers will find another way to sell. So even if eBay was as strict as they could be, you have to watch yourself on other social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook, on down the list. You can get on TikTok and say, hey, I want to sell this whole lot of cards. What will you give me for them? And my advice, especially with like a Thurman Munson autograph of this magnitude, if somebody's asking that much money for that autograph, there better be some pretty darn good authentication that goes along with that. Whether that's JSA, PSA, Beckett, on down the list. Because if this was clearly authenticated by any of those housing companies, it would be well worth more than probably that price, in my opinion. Especially this card, a 78 Topps, which again, like the Clemente, there was such a small window for those cards to get signed because he passed away a year later. But it's more believable to see a 1970 Topps Thurman Munson card signed than a 78 Topps. So I hope this video, it's a little bit longer, but I really hope while you're at home, stuck at home, and you're just tempted to buy some stuff, have that itch to buy some cards because you can't get out to the card shop, you can't get out to the card show, just be very careful when you see stuff like this pop up, because this stuff is not legit. So I hope you enjoyed my video. Thanks for taking the time. I look forward to your comments below.